Today I want to talk about access control and permissions. I want to restrict access to certain pages or certain actions of an application based on roles and permissions. Let's start with the regular RectAdmin applications with CRUD for orders, customers, posters, and even a custom page for logs. And regular users can read, create, or edit elements. They can even delete some posters. So nothing fancy. It's a regular RectAdmin app. So just some basic resources, a custom route here using a custom logs page with static content. As for the CRUD elements, it's using a list data grid, and you can see that there is no access control code in the page components. All the logic for access control will take place in the authentication provider. So for now, it's a normal authentication provider, and I have written a static list of authorized users, and we will work the rights for 3 users, one called John admin, the second is Bob reader, and the third is Jen user. John admin will have access to everything. Bob reader will only have read-only access, and Jen user should only have access to orders, customers, and posters, and not categories and logs. So how do we do that? Well, access control is governed by an authentication provider method called CANAccess. CANAccess is an asynchronous method that should return a Boolean, true or false. And for instance, if it returns false, then nobody has access to anything. So when I reload the page, I cannot have access to this products page. On the contrary, if I return true, everyone has access to everything. So I can go to orders, customers, etc. Now, what's interesting is to return different permissions depending on the user role. And fortunately, on login here, I'm storing the user role in local storage. So I will add custom logic, for instance, to return true if the role is admin and false otherwise. So now I'm logged in with John admin, and when I reload, John admin has access to everything. But if I log in with any other username, like for instance reader, I will have access to nothing except for the logs page, and we'll see that in a minute. So that's fine and all, but we probably need some more sophisticated access. For instance, I would like John reader to have access, read-only access, Bob reader, sorry, to have read-only access. So how am I going to do that? First, I will say if role is admin, return true, otherwise return false, and I will add an if role is reader, then I will only return true if the action, action, what's that? Yeah, every time RectAdmin calls CANAccess, it passes a parameter object with 2 properties, the resource and the action. The resource is, for instance, the name of the entity displayed, like products, orders, etc. And the action is list, edit, create, show, delete, depending on the CRUD action that is intended by the user. So I just have to return true if action is list or action is show. And now Bob reader should have access to everything again, except now he cannot edit anything. He cannot delete anything. He cannot create a new product. He has only read-only access to the administration. And we can do the same type of logic for the third user called user, Jen user here. So if role is user, then I will only return true if the resource is orders, customers, or posters. So return orders, customers, and products includes resource. That's fine. So let's check that with this third user called user. And now I don't have access to the categories anymore. And if I even try to access the categories page, then GenUser will see an access denied page. For all the other pages, she has regular access. She can even edit a customer like the admin. Now, we need to do something about this logs menu here. I said I only wanted that the admin has access to the logs menu. This menu is a custom menu that I've written using resource items to display the resource menu items and a custom menu item here. How do I hide a menu item based on the user permissions? I will use the can access component, and I will wrap my component inside a can access, passing it the resource, in this case it's logs, and the action, which will be read. And so just by wrapping this menu inside can access, it disappears. It disappears because GenUser doesn't have access to the logs resource. If I look at the host provider, she only has access to orders, customers, and products. So that's it. It's secured. Not so fast. Jen can still access the logs page. So I also need to secure the custom route that I have added in my application here. So I have a custom route to the logs page. So the logs page needs to use can access as well. So we'll use can access, and I will use the same logic here as for the menu. So I will wrap the entire page inside can access. So now when GenUser goes to the logs page, she sees an empty page. Why? Because can access returns null by default when a user doesn't have access. If I want to show the access denied page, I need to be explicit about it and to pass it as the access denied prop. And now that should do it. And now GenUser sees the access denied page when she goes to the logs. I will just check that the admin still has access to this logs page. That's fine. So we've secured our application. If you want to secure your CRUD routes, you can do you can just configure the can access to allow or deny access. If you want to show or hide custom elements, you will need the can access component or its headless pendant, the use can access hook. And if you want to go further and implement more complex logic, I recommend the RBAC module, which will allow you to define groups and allow or deny permissions, wildcard, etc., and to define your permissions in a serializable format that you can persist on the server side. That's it for today. Thanks for watching and happy coding.